My cousin Travis raised his ice-cold beer with a smug grin, playing to the crowd of relatives surrounding the back patio. He loved calling me the family paper pilot, and the entire table burst into roaring laughter right on cue. None of them knew the suffocating smell of burning jet fuel that sticks to your hair after a live combat run. They did not know the horrific sound of men screaming over tactical radios when a bird goes down in enemy territory. And they certainly had no idea who call sign Raven 1 actually was. I forced a polite smile, because keeping quiet had always been safer than spilling. Classified truth, but deep down, a fierce promise took root. The relentless teasing was nothing new in our family, where my Uncle Hank stood as an untouchable legend. Hank was a retired Navy SEAL captain whose chest of medals earned him undisputed authority, and Travis constantly rode those famous coat-tails to make himself look like a tough military authority. Growing up along the Florida coastline, our family operated on 3 unwritten rules. Work hard, keep your mouth shut, and never question the men in uniform. Because I flew high-altitude naval transports rather than stomping around in combat boots, Travis treated my service like an easy desk job punchline. I let him talk because defending my record meant opening doors to classified operations I was legally bound to keep locked tight. Everything changed during a grueling deployment 3 years prior, when a chaos-heavy evacuation mission went horribly sideways in hot airspace. I remember the cockpit flooding with alarm, lights as ground fire pinned down a special operations squad over the crackling frequency. A desperate voice called out for immediate air support before they were completely overrun. I brought my bird down through intense fire, stabilizing the drift and holding position until every single operator scrambled aboard safely. Weeks later, my commanding officer pulled me, aside to mention that Captain Hank Reynolds was on that ground team and knew exactly who saved them, though military secrecy and family pride kept the truth buried deep in the shadows. That evening by the shore, I found Uncle Hank standing alone, staring out where the dark ocean swallowed the horizon. When he heard my footsteps on the cool sand, he did not turn around, simply acknowledging that he knew I was Raven 1 and expressing a quiet gratitude. I asked him why he let Travis mock my career if he knew the truth, and he admitted he did not want his son to feel overshadowed or small. Hearing him sacrifice my dignity to protect his son inflated ego hurt. But I looked him in the eye and told him that while he could keep his secret to protect his pride, I would no longer stay silent the next time Travis tried to make me his personal joke. 2 years passed before the next massive family gathering, a festive backyard cookout celebrating Uncle Hank reaching his 60s. The patio was packed with old veterans, neighbors, and extended family, all listening to Travis boast about his extreme fitness training as if he had survived actual combat. When Travis caught sight of me coming through the screen door, he raised his glass and loudly announced to the entire yard that the paper pilot had finally arrived from her comfortable, air-conditioned office. A few drunk friends chuckled, but this time I did not smile or lower my head. I walked straight up to the table, set my drink down with absolute precision, and let the sudden silence heavy up the humid summer air. One of Hank old team members named Lieutenant Miller broke the stillness by asking Hank about the legendary pilot who pulled their team out of Mogadishu. Hank froze mid-breath, his face tightening as he reluctantly uttered the call sign, Raven 1, into the quiet crowd. Travis chuckled arrogantly, declaring that whoever Raven 1 was, at least that pilot had real guts, unlike people who only flew safe practice routes. I looked directly across the table at my cousin and told him some of us fly where there are no second chances or practice runs. The sheer weight in my voice made the surrounding veterans sit up straight, their eyes shifting between me and my visibly uncomfortable uncle. Travis pushed his luck further, asking me in front of everyone what my silly little call sign was so they could all have a good laugh. I took a calm breath, adjusted my posture, and clearly stated into the silence that my call sign was Raven 1. The entire yard went dead, quiet as Lieutenant Miller gasped, instantly realizing that the soft-spoken woman standing in front of him was the ghost pilot who saved his squad. Before Travis could process what was happening, Uncle Hank stood up from his chair with full military command, commanding his son to apologize right that second. Travis stuttered in confusion, asking why he needed to apologize for a simple joke, completely unaware of the truth about to hit him. Hank's voice thundered across the yard as he told Travis that he was mocking the very pilot who flew through. heavy ground fire to save his life and his team. The color completely drained from Travis' face as he stared at me in total shock, muttering that he had no idea I was ever in real danger. Hank stepped forward, his eyes burning with a mix of deep shame and pride, and admitted to the crowd that I had kept quiet for years to protect family harmony. He reached into his pocket and placed a heavy brass challenge coin into my palm, stating that I had earned it years ago in combat and that he was deeply sorry for letting his son diminish my service. Later that evening, after the guests departed, Hank met me by the edge of the water to give me an official folded mission record with my redacted name finally cleared. He pulled out his own Team Original unit coin, worn smooth from years of carrying it, and handed it to me as a final token of respect from his men. He admitted that his silence was never about protecting me, but rather about protecting his own ego and allowing Travis to live in a comfortable fantasy. I held both coins tightly, feeling the heavy metal cool against my skin, and told him that the silence was officially over for good. Hank nodded solemnly, acknowledging that Travis was not angry at me, but terrified that he had never done anything truly meaningful with his life. The following summer, the atmosphere at the family home was entirely transformed into something genuine, peaceful and grounded. Travis had stopped his arrogant boasting entirely, pouring his energy into volunteering with a local outreach program that helped returning combat veterans transition back to civilian life. When I walked onto the back patio wearing my simple service uniform, Travis stood up immediately and introduced me to his friends, not as a punchline, but as Commander Reynolds, the pilot who brought his father back alive. My young nephew ran up to me with wide eyes, asking if I really flew through dangerous storms to save people, and I knelt down to tell him that true strength is simply refusing to leave your people behind. Standing on that familiar porch years later, watching military jets streak across the clear blue sky, I realized that real honor never requires loud speeches or boastful claims. Uncle Hank sat beside me in quiet contentment, watching his grandson polish the brass challenge coins, displayed proudly in a wooden display box. I no longer felt the need to prove my worth to anyone, because those who truly mattered understood the sacrifices made in the shadows. The painful silence that once drove us apart had finally been replaced by mutual respect, understanding, and an unbreakable family bond forged in truth.